Hey everyone, I'm John with Roadkill Incorporated. These are 131 15 and 17-inch aluminum MacBook Pros from 2006 to 2008. I bought them from recyclers over a period of about a year. They normally scrap them, so they let me buy them relatively cheap. And as you can see, they've been stacking up, literally. What I'm going to do is a first pass on these computers. I'm not going to try to fully refurbish them just yet. I'll power them on, get specs, wipe the drive if I can, and put an OS on them if I can. These are mostly Core 2 Duos, although there may be a few 2006 Core Duos, so I'm going to put Snow Leopard on them. It's not the newest OS most of them can take, but it's a nice and quick OS that is compatible with all of them, and that will make things easier. Once I power on, my approach will be to boot to an external drive. These drives have Snow Leopard on them, plus Super Duper, which is a great disk imaging tool, and they also have a Snow Leopard image on them. So if I'm able to boot to the external, I'll be able to audit the machine and then hopefully wipe the drive and install Snow Leopard. It'll be really interesting to see how many of these are dead versus broken screen versus other issues. The final 2008s were super prone to GPU issues, so I anticipate a lot of black screens and possibly some wacky GPU artifacts. Oh, and before I get started, I'll answer the question that people always have. No, the computers at the bottom do not have broken screens as a result of being stacked. I've been stacking tens of thousands of Apple laptops 5 feet high for 17 years, and I've just never had that issue. So it's really a myth. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, getting set up here. I'm going to try and do 3 at once. These use MagSafe 1 AC adapters, and it's very important to use 85-watt MagSafe 1s because most 15 and all 17-inch aluminum Pros will not power on without a charge on the battery unless you have an 85-watt. So if you have a 60-watt and the battery is dead, most of these computers are not going to power on. Just an FYI, make sure your AC adapters are known good AC adapters. If the AC adapters aren't working, the computers will not power on. They also will not power on if the AC adapters are not plugged in. These are realizations I've had in the last few minutes because my morning coffee has not quite sunk in yet. Anyway, we have the first computer, the first of 131. I'm going to power it on, hold down the Option key to option boot it. It's connected to the drive here. Wow, we have a light. Everything looking good. It's funny, not having dealt with these old Pros in a while, it's easy to forget how slow they are. Okay, there's the imaging drive, so we will boot to the imaging drive. As that loads, I'll go over here. I had kind of forgotten that some of these wouldn't have RAM, so I got out the big bag of RAM. That should be enough. And yeah, we'll expand the RAM here, or put RAM in it at all, actually. The RAM you need for these is PC2 5300. You don't want slower like 4200 or faster like 60 something. You want PC2 5300. These can take 2 gig modules, so in the 2 slots you would have a total of 4. I think that's the most they can take. So the lower slot on these can be bad. It's a pretty common flaw. So I would just test 1 slot at a time. I'm not going to populate both slots. So let's see if I can do this with one hand. The little arms are a little bit bent. I hope that's not going to be a problem. Yeah, it is kind of popping up. It shouldn't pop up that much. But anyway, so put one in this guy. All right. We'll see what these two do. Oh, and here we go. We're booted up. Snow Leopard. Okay. So here is the drive. It's yellow like that because it's an external drive. Super Duper is the imaging program. Coconut battery I have on my imaging drives because it's just handy to have. These 3 don't have batteries, so we don't have to think about that. Here's my Snow Leopard image. And so let's see what this is. Okay, 2.5 gigahertz. This is a 2008. Only the 2008 came in 2.5, if I remember right. And it's got 4 gigs of RAM, so that's pretty cool. The only one faster is the 2.6. The downside of it being a 2008 is that they're very prone to GPU issues, but, you know, I can't complain. It booted up fine, and we look good so far. And I do not see an icon for an internal hard drive, so what I'll do is I will go into disk utility. Yeah, and we don't see an internal hard drive there, just the external. So I am assuming this has no drive or it's dead. And I'm not going to go inside and explore on this pass through of the computers. What I'll write here is 2.5, 4 gigs, and then 0 for hard drive. And that pretty much tells me what I need to know for this computer. Okay, on to these two. Got a light on that one. Oh, light just came on here, and this guy is powering up. Sometimes this happens if it's in a odd resolution. If you reset the PRAM, those will go back to normal. The bars will go away. So no power on this one. If I was going further into these machines, the next step would be to take off the top case, and the boards in most MacBooks, including these, have what are called power-on pads, or two little metal tabs. And what you do is you use a pair of tweezers or a screwdriver to bridge them. So that is a power button inside the computer on the board. What that lets you do is troubleshoot whether the problem is the top case keyboard assembly or the board itself. If I take the top off, jump the board, and I still get no power, you know something is wrong at the board level or something else inside. Okay, wow, look at this. We have someone's computer. This drive is not wiped, and we do have a drive. That's cool. So let's see what this is. It's also a 2.5. It has the 2 gigs I put in there. That's great. Okay, so what I did is I powered on to the internal hard drive. I didn't boot to the external. So now I'm going to power off and option boot this one. Actually, I will reset the PRAM, get rid of those borders. And then I will option boot. See, the borders are gone. It's reset to the default screen resolution. Okay, so now I will select, yeah, you can see it's much higher resolution now. I will select the external drive. Okay, here we are in Snow Leopard. Okay, so what I'll do at this point, it's always a good idea to just wipe the drive before you do anything. So 320 gig drive, good size drive for this age of machine. I will just use the standard options and erase. I do have a secure wiping system called Kill Disk. It can do 4 drives at the same time. Pretty cool, very secure, but I'm not going to utilize that for this first pass of these machines. So the way SuperDuper works is you're saying copy this onto that. So that is the internal drive. You know it's the internal drive because it's got the metal silver drive. So we're choosing that there. And then we don't want the lion image. The lion image is a different image. We want the SuperDuper image for Snow Leopard, which is on the desktop. And we'll choose Snow Leopard and then click open. And we just click copy now. Okay. And copy. And there it goes. It does a little percentage complete. And I think this takes 5 or 6 minutes, and then it'll flash a green screen saying it's done, and then you can reboot, and it's like you have a new computer. SuperDuper is a free app, but I'd really encourage you to buy it. I have purchased a few licenses. I'm just lazy about registering because the software works fine without registering. Okay, so there's the finish screen. So I'll just power off, disconnect the drive, and power back on. All right, 2.5, 2, 320, and here we go. I wouldn't consider this computer fully tested. We're not bothering with the optical drive, other elements like that. But this is the ideal situation as far as I'm testing these machines. So this computer has a very bad case of dandruff, as you can see. I don't really want to touch it. So this powered on to a light and no screen, and so did this guy here. This guy's got some wavy metal on the side. It's one of the defects that happens a lot with these. The corner gets punched and then you get all this waviness. But anyway, same thing here, light and nothing on the screen. So that could be a memory module that has somewhat come out of its slot, or it could be a GPU defect, because the most common sign of a GPU defect is a black screen. So I'll take a look at the memory on both of these. It could be the lower slot is bad, and if I put memory just in the other slot and free up the bad slot, that could be what's going on here and it might work. Okay, so I flipped these guys over, taking out the 4 screws of the memory door, and I'll take the memory door off this one. What I'm going to do now is take out one memory module from each, expose a slot, and see if that clears anything up. Again, if there is a bad slot, if it's not populated, sometimes that lets the computer work. Okay, so we'll power on. Okay, we have a light on the right. Wow, this one's booting. Good news. Maybe that has a bad slot, or maybe the RAM in the slot was not fully seated, or maybe it's bad RAM. Meanwhile, this one, we have a light and no screen, so that's not a good sign. What I'll do with this one now is move the RAM to the other slot. So by doing that, we'll test fully both slots, and we'll see if that makes a difference. Have a light again, nothing on the screen. So at this point, I'm going to diagnose this one as a bad GPU. We've tested both slots with known good RAM, and both situations give us a light, but nothing on the screen. This one, on the other hand, seems to be a working computer. Okay, so what happened is this one booted to a picture of someone's family, so I don't want to show that. So what I did is I put another memory module in and powered it on again, and same thing, got the light with no screen. So that confirms that this memory module is bad. So what I will do now is boot this to the external and wipe it. And we'll boot to the external. Okay, so same thing as before. Super duper. Select the internal drive on the right. Select the snow leopard image on the left. Copy and get that going. Okay, so this is a 2.33, most likely a 2007. The 1 gig we put in. And then this is what? This is a 120 gig disk. And this is computer number 5. Long way to go, only on number 5. All right, next 3 off the pile. Whoa, these guys are heavy. All right, next 3, here we go. Wow, that's pretty amazing. These 2 clearly have hard drives. The one on the right, I'll show you, actually has a removed top. Recyclers do this. They pry the top cases off to take out the hard drive. So we've got a rail here and the hard drive cable, but no drive. Okay, we're finally getting into the swing of things. 6, 7, and 8 are booted up to the externals. 8 does not have a hard drive, as we saw. This is the one with the loose top, but it is a 2.4 with 1 gig of RAM and 0 hard drive. Nice that it's a 2.4. 6 and 7, I just finished imaging. You can see the completed super duper there. And they are both 2.4s as well. 2.4 with 2 gigs and a 160 hard drive. And then number 6 is 2.4 with 4 gigs and also a 160 gig hard drive. So what's unique about number 6 here is that it actually has a battery. You can see that it's charging the amber light on the AC adapter. And here's coconut battery running. I'll give you a quick overview. So design capacity, that's capacity when new, 6600, and current capacity is 6127. So that is 7% less than design capacity. So this battery has degraded 7%, which is amazing. You would expect a battery this old to be 20, 30, 50% degraded. So, I mean, this battery basically only has 6 months to a year of use on it. So of the 6127 remaining, it is charged up 5847. So it's 95% charged. It is continuing to charge now. And down here we have Mac model, MacBook Pro 3.1, age of the Mac 212 months, and then battery load cycles 285, which again is pretty amazing. Typically would get 300 load cycles on a machine that's 1 to 3 years old, something in that range. Coconut Battery is a free app. You can download amazing, amazing free app. So highly recommend doing that. And additionally, when I have a battery, I make note of that. So what I do is I put 93% and then 285 load cycles. That basically tells me everything I need to know about that battery. Okay, let's keep this going. Next 3. Okay, 9, 10, and 11 on the bench here, all 17s. First thing you can see with 11, obviously, is that it has no RAM. So I will stick a gig of RAM in here, and hopefully that will do the trick. Aluminum Pros have a sticker. There we go, 2.6 gigahertz. So this is the fastest 17-inch 2008. This one as well is 2.6 gigahertz. And this guy is lucky enough to have a battery. So I'll take this out. It is a third-party battery. You can tell because it doesn't have the Apple OEM indicators on it. But hey, I'll take whatever I can get as far as batteries go. And this is a 2.33. So yeah, you can get the basic specs off of the computer itself. It also tells you A1229, the model number A1212. Again, this one's older. Okay, here we go. Moment of truth. Sounds good so far. Oh no! Number 9 is our first contribution to the world of glitch art. 10 has a whirring sound. That is the optical drive. So we know there's a disk inside the optical drive. What I'll do is I'll power that off, power it on, and then hold down the left side of the button. That kicks out the disk, assuming it's a working optical drive. You can hear it slowing down, and it's going to kick out the disk, usually an OS disk. But here we have the Mandolin Primer by Bert Casey. Wow, where have you been all my life, Bert Casey? I'll put that up here onto the stack of weird disks that I've found in computers. And what's it doing now? Is it going to boot to the hard drive? Do you hear that sound, that clicking? Like a little frog or something. That is the hard drive clicking away. So the hard drive has damage. It's not going to be bootable. So probably we'll get a blinking folder at some point. And 11 appears to be booting, although it has a bad screen, unfortunately. But at least we'll be able to see what is on the desktop. Okay, so it booted to a login prompt, but it has someone's name there, so I won't show that. Number 9, partially visible. I don't know if we'll succeed in wiping this one, at least through the interface itself. We'll probably have to put that in target mode. And here we are. We have a blinking folder. That's as good as we'll get with this one, with the internal hard drive at least. Okay, so I plugged an external into number 10, and it was in a state of searching for a boot device. So when I plugged it in, it automatically found it, and it is booting up to it now. And 11, I will power off. I will boot to the external. So I did an about this Mac on this computer, and I've been trying to fish it out from the middle of the screen and drag it over, but that's not working so well. So yeah, I think I'll give up on that. So this guy, I'll just put broken green, not wiped. So that's it for 9. Okay, so number 10 is a 2.6 with 4 gigs of RAM and a 120 gig hard drive. Yeah, nice machine. Oh, I did transplant the battery from 9 to 10. And according to the numbers, it is a great battery, 100% of the original capacity, and the current capacity is greater than the original capacity. That doesn't really happen. I don't know what's going on there. So the numbers are a little weird. It is charging very slowly. That can happen when you have a battery that's been sitting for years. You can see it creep up by 1 at a time, and then maybe by 5, and then by 10. And it'll either make it and go all the way up, or it'll just fall to nothing, and then it's a confirmed dead battery. Hard to say. 12 load cycles, which is amazing. This battery basically was never used before it got disposed of, and it sat for years and years and years. So yeah, time will tell. We'll see if this is a good battery or not. It's always worth just giving it some time and seeing what happens. So I'll just put a question mark for battery. And on to 11. I got this guy imaged, and it is a 2.6 as we saw, one, and it has a 200 gig hard drive. So that's it for these three. Not as good as the previous batch, but hey, still pretty good signs of life. Interesting to note as well, 11 was very, very dirty. I had to clean out a lot of dirt from the DCN. It is magnetic, so it draws in metals out of dirt, and recyclers are filled with dirt. I have received laptops that are just completely filled. Every port just completely filled over with dirt. Okay, 12, 13, and 14 on the bench. Well, this one is interesting. It has a black case, which is pretty uncommon. Let's take this guy off. Kind of a funny sticker on the back of it. I guess this is just so old that the idea of using Google Apps was not that common. Okay, 12, 13, 14. All powering on. That's good news. 12 we're not going to get very far with. As you can see, it's like that previous one. 14 is booting up, and so is 13. Cool. 14 and 13 both booted up to someone's data, so I will not show those, and I will boot up to the external drives. All right, all these booted up to externals. 12 is a 2.4 with 2 gigs and no hard drive, as we talked about. 13 is a 2.4 with 4 gigs and 120 gig hard drive. And 14 is a 2.5 with 3 gigs and a 200 gig hard drive. It also has a battery with 89% and 210 cycles. So we'll move on. Okay, 15, 16, and 17, all 17-inch machines. I'm going to start going through these much faster now. So 15, as you can see, is another contribution to the world of glitch art. It has been extremely erratic. It freezes booting up. It gives a kernel panic error, which is like a system freeze. So I think it has a board issue. I've tried the 2 RAM slots with no difference. It could be a hard drive cable. I've seen flaky hard drive cables do really strange stuff, but I'm not going that deep into these machines at this point. I was able to see that it's a 2.4 with a 250 gig hard drive. That's pretty big for these machines. Number 16, I believe, is a GPU defect computer because, oh, there we go. There's a there's a kernel panic. 16, I believe, has a GPU defect. Doesn't matter which slot the RAM is in, you get the light with no video on the screen. And 17 so far is behaving pretty well. It's a 2.4 with 120 gig hard drive, and it has a battery, but as you can see, it's showing goofy numbers. Sometimes that happens when you have a really dead battery and Coconut battery cannot get a reading on it. So I'm just going to let that battery sit for a while, and sometimes the battery in this condition will come around, sometimes not, like I said, but we will see. Okay, 18, 19, and 20. I thought 18 was a GPU issue machine initially because the screen was out, but it just turns out that probably has a bent video cable, and the screen itself is curved, so it's got some bending going on in there. Kind of cool. I like that. It is a 2.16, which I believe is the high-end version of the first year, which was 2006. Someone left their password on the machine, and I was able to log into the internal hard drive with this password. So, take that as a warning, people. Don't leave your passwords on your computers. Actually, don't leave data on your drives. Securely wipe your drives before giving your computer to anyone. Anyway, 19 is a good computer, although it doesn't have a drive, as you can see. It's a 2.4 with 2 gigs of RAM. And we have 20, which is a definite GPU issue machine. I wish I had caught the colored stripes coming down as it was trying to boot up, but it went to a black screen. Maybe I have footage of that pattern that was on the screen. But when you have lines or geometric patterns, you know for sure that it is absolutely a GPU issue, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. You're done. Oh, and by the way, just wanted to show you what the back of number 20 looks like. Someone had some fun with a hammer. 21 to 23. Okay, got these three powered on. 21 is a 2.6 with 2 gigs of RAM. When I first powered it on, I got 3 beeps. 3 beeps usually indicate a RAM problem or a bad slot. I took 2 gigs out of one slot and now it powers on. It could be a bad slot, it could be a bad RAM module, it might have just been seated badly. Whatever the case, it's now working. Very nice machine. 22 has a very bad screen. None of the screen is visible, so I can't really do anything with this guy, unfortunately. Has a band-aid over the camera. Oh, and look at the optical drive. This one took a beating or had a bad fall or something. And finally, 23 is a 2.4 with 2 gigs of RAM. Nothing too remarkable, but it's in good shape and working fine. And finally, the last of the 17s, 24 through 26 on the table. All right, the final three 17s, and they're fairly disappointing. 24 is completely dead, no light on the AC adapter, and it's no wonder why. Look at that DCN. I don't even know what that is. Some kind of glue? It would really take some time to scrape that away and see if there's any chance of recovering that. 25, fortunately, is a much better story. 2.33 gigahertz with a 160 gig hard drive. Very nice condition. And then we have 26. I don't know if I've seen anything quite like this. A black skin all around, completely dead. Looks like it was kept outside. I mean, look at that dirt. So those are the last three 17s, and I think this is where I'm going to leave it for this video. We only got through the 17s. We didn't even touch the 15s. There are probably 100 15-inch MacBook Pros that we haven't even looked at. Let me know what you think. Was this useful? Is there a point in me doing a part 2? Or did this video basically cover it and give you what you needed? Let me know. Anyway, thanks for watching.